Oh, you are welcome to Fistonic channel. If today is your first day on this channel, click the subscribe button so that whenever we upload new videos, you will be notified. Now, it has been our notice that many candidates of Waec and Neco go for physics practical examination and they fail woefully. That shows that they have little or no correct knowledge on how to answer the questions very well. Now, today, we want to see the general knowledge about physics practical. What do I mean? Number one, we all know that 3 questions will be given to every candidate as Waec and Neco are concerned. Now, these 3 questions, every candidate must answer 2. Question 1 is always from mechanics. Question 2 is at times light or heat, or the question 3 always be from electricity. Now, every candidate must answer 2 questions, which is 25 mark each. That shows that each candidate is being subjected to what? To 50, the total mark of 50 as physics practical is concerned. Now, whether the question is from mechanics, electricity, light or heat, these are the general way of tackling with physics practical question. Now, the question will be given to you in form of an instruction or series of instructions. Let me put it that way. Series of instructions, and at the end of the day, there will be things that you yourself will observe together with your apparatus and the question given to you in form of instruction. There are things that you need to come up with at the end of following the instruction. Number one, the first thing that will come up is what is called your observation. You will observe things. For example, you are given a pendulum, a thread, a meter rule, a stop clock, and you are asked to measure the length of the thread to 60 centimeter for example, and you set it into a certain number of oscillation in order to know the time taken for that pendulum to have that complete number of oscillation, e.g. 20. So these are the things. You are given the thread, you are given the length of the thread, but you are the one to observe the number, the total time taken for that pendulum to perform that certain number of oscillation. So these are the things that we do in physics practical. Observation. The first thing you need to know concerning physics practical is that your observation must be in tabular form. Don't wait for the question to tell you that. It's very compulsory. It must be in tabular form. Number 2, take note of correct heading with correct corresponding units. What do I mean? For example, the other example I cited the other time, you are asked to measure the length of a thread in centimeter. Let's say the length is being symbolized as what? As L. And you have taken the measurement in centimeter. That shows that on your table, you must show the length of the thread L, and in brackets, you must put down the unit. So L is the correct heading. Centimeter is the correct unit. Again, the time taken, the time you observe when the simple pendulum perform the given number of oscillation, that time, let's call it small letter t. Small letter t is the what? Is the correct heading. And then the stopwatch is being measured in seconds. So you need to show your correct heading as t and put the correct unit in bracket on table. Note that you now put the correct heading as L, and in the bracket you now put a wrong unit, e.g. gram. Length is not measured in gram. length of a thread is not measured in gram. The time taken is not measured in centimeter. And then the time taken is measured in seconds. The length is measured in centimeter. Now, when you are dealing with mass, yes, mass can be measured in what? In gram, and is being represented by small letter G. So these are the things that you need to take note: correct heading and correct unit. Another one is correct decimal place or significant figure. Correct decimal place or correct significant figure, which must be the same per column. What do I mean? If you put the decimal place of, for example, length of a thread in 1 dp, it must be uniform down the column. It must be uniform down the column. And then the decimal place that you are going to put your reading into depend on some things. For example, the apparatus that you are using, the degree of accuracy of that apparatus. For example, the degree of accuracy of a meter rule is 0.1 centimeter. That's the reason why if you are putting down your reading measured on meter rule, it must be in at least 1 decimal place measured in centimeter. Another one is Veneer Calipers. Whenever you are measuring with Veneer Calipers and the unit is in centimeter, it must be in 2 decimal places. It must be in 2 decimal places, simply because the degree of accuracy of Veneer caliper is 0.01 in centimeter. 0.01 centimeter. And likewise, when you are measuring with micrometer screw gauge, it must be in 3 decimal places measured in centimeter, because the degree of accuracy of micrometer screw gauge is 0.001 centimeter. Another factor that will determine how to place your decimal is the performance that you have done, the arithmetic, the operation that you have performed on your table. For instance, you are asked to evaluate t square, capital letter T square, square of a period, and the t that you have already obtained is just 2. We all know that 2 raised to power 2 is 4. Now, if you are putting 4 on your table, as physics practical is concerned, I want to tell you that you are actually wrong. Since you are performing a multiplication, you must put it in at least 3 decimal places. If you multiply a parameter by another parameter, make sure that your DP must be in at least 3 decimal places. Take note of this. If you are saying at least, it means that it can be more than that. You can put it in 4, you can put it in 5. Actually, to put it in 5 is getting out of hand, but at least 3 DP, 3 or 4 DP is okay. Another thing that you need to take note as physics practical is concerned is graph. What do we do in graph? Graph is just a picture to show the relationship between 2 parameters. Maybe the 2 parameters, as they are increasing together, or one is increasing, the other one is decreasing. So when you want to plot your graph, what are the things that you need to put into consideration? On your graph page, you must indicate your axis. You need to distinguish your axis. For example, if the instruction says you are to plot the graph of t square against L, that means that the t square will occupy the vertical axis and the L will occupy the horizontal axis. You need to indicate the graph you are plotting. Is very very important. Another one, you need to choose a correct scale. You need to choose a correct scale. This scale that you are going to choose depend on few factors. Number one, the graph you have to plot must cover at least, let me say, 4/5 of the page given to you. Yes, if you are working with 4/5, it will fetch you a good mark. 4/5 of that page, or 3/5 or 4/5 of that page. It must cover the graph. The graph you have to plot must cover 4/5 of the page. This one will help you to choose a correct scale. This one will actually help you to choose a correct scale. Now, that when you are thinking, another factor rather that will help you to choose a correct scale is the nature of your reading, the maximum value and the minimum value. When you check the maximum value and the minimum value and you think about the correct scale, you will come out with a good one that will be of benefit. Now, another thing that you need to take note in choosing a correct scale is that there are numbers that are not acceptable. Or let me say, as Waec and Neco are concerned, whenever you are thinking about how to choose a correct scale, there are numbers that are not acceptable. Please take note of this very well. The first one, not only these numbers alone, but their multiples, their sub-multiples. For example, 3 is not acceptable, 7 is not acceptable, 3, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29, 31. All these numbers are not acceptable. Not only these numbers and their submultiples. Can we use 5? Yes, we can use 5. Don't narrow your mind and say, we cannot use prime numbers. The numbers that I've said, actually they are prime numbers, but not all prime numbers that we cannot use. 2 is a prime number, we can use 2. 5 is a prime number, we can use 5. But 3 is also a prime number, we cannot use 3. 3 cannot be used, 7 cannot be used, 11 cannot be used, 13 cannot be used, 17 cannot be used, 19 cannot be used, 23 cannot be used, 29 cannot be used, 31 cannot be used. Not only these numbers, but with their sub-multiples. Now, after you have already chosen the correct scale, you need to plot correctly. Yes, you need to plot correctly. And don't forget, don't approximate. If your reading is up to 3 decimal places, make sure that you choose a correct scale that can help you to plot to at least 2 decimal places, so that you not just approximate maybe to 1 dp or to a whole number. So please take note of that. Just take note of that. Don't approximate whenever you are plotting your graph. And then you need to take note of what is called line of best fit. At times when you plot your graph, for example, you have 6 points or 5 points, the points can be on the same line, and all the line will pass through all these 6 points. Perfect. If it is 5 points, perfect, correct. And then if it is only 4 or 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 6 points, yes, it's still fine. And then for 6 points, if it is only 3 or 4, if it is only 4 points that are on the same straight line, make sure that the remaining 2 points are evenly distributed. How do I mean? One will be above your line, one will be below your line. It's very, very important. And if you are dealing with 5 points, 5 points, perfect. 4 points, remain 1, perfect. 3 points, 3 points, remain 2 in 5. Make sure that the other one is above, the other one is below the line to ensure line of best fit. Now, what if your graph is just passing through 2 points out of 6 points of 5 points? That shows that there are errors in performing your experiment. Is an indication that how you have performed your experiment is not that okay. You have not taken care of a certain some certain errors like parallax error, zero error, environmental error. Maybe you need to avoid droughts in experiments that can be affected by droughts. You need to take note of that. So whenever your line is just passing through 2 points, is an indication that you have not really performed the experiment correctly. After that, we move on to slope. Another word for slope is gradient. We call it gradient in mathematics. Yes, the way we calculate gradient in mathematics is the way we calculate slope in physics practical as well. Now, how do we go about slope? Number one, you need to produce large right angle triangle. Please take note of the type of triangle. It's not ordinary triangle, but what? A right angle triangle. And it must be large. It must be large. Very, very large. At least 1/3 of your graph page. 1/3 of the page of your graph. And how can we achieve this? On the line that you have drawn, pick 2 points that are wide apart. 2 readable points, easy to read points that are wide apart. Don't worry, by the time we are dealing with a practical example on how to go about this thing, I will explain further. So pick 2 points that are wide apart. This one will generate a large right angle triangle. Now, after that, correct change in vertical. So that's the formula. You need to find change in vertical, you need to find change in horizontal, and you need to divide change in vertical by change in horizontal. Change in vertical by change in horizontal. So after that, another thing you need to take note is the intercept. The intercept. How do we go about this intercept? This intercept is very, very simple. To go about intercept is very, very simple. Let's say this is the graph that you have plotted. You have plotted this graph, and then your graph look like this. The question may say, determine the intercept on the vertical axis. You will just come to your vertical axis, where the graph cuts the vertical axis is what is called your vertical intercept. And at times, the question may demand the horizontal intercept. So this is your horizontal intercept. Another one that you need to take note will be given to you in the part 2 of this class.